Hello and welcome to Kitchen Table Conversation with the Men and Masculine Folks Network, a program of men and peacemakers. Together, we are shaping a new meaning of masculinity that are authentic, caring, and thoughtful. These conversations help us see the inherent dignity uh, those around us and practice collective care and responsibility towards others, and to do it in a way that acknowledge we're all human beings who are a whole. Each month, as you all know, we choose a topic that can help men and masculine folks identify our own roles in creating safe, thriving communities. We host two discussions about that month topic, where the first conversation focused on developing deeper understanding of the issues on hand. During the second conversation of the month, we talk about practical, tangible ways that men and masculine folks can work alongside others in community to create that change that we want to see. Remember that these conversations are a way for us to come together, to learn new things from different perspectives, as well as demonstrate how we can all have these important conversations with people in our own lives.
Yes, and we are so glad that you can join us, whether you're joining us live here today on Facebook or YouTube, or if you're tuning in at a later time, maybe listening on our podcast. Thank you so much for joining and connecting with us here today. Yeah, we took a couple week break there, and now we're excited to be back. And as Felix said, so for this month of June, we're going to be talking about a concept that we call inherent dignity and belonging. And so this is one of our four core tenets here at Men as Peacemakers in our We Are All Connected approach to all of our prevention work. And this core value recognizes that it's vital to build awareness and understanding about the need all humans, all of us people have for feeling that belonging and the importance of living in connection to one another and to community. So the idea is everyone belongs and everyone matters. But before we jump in, we'll take a second here to introduce all of ourselves. So, my name is Sean Hayes, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I am in Duluth at Men as Peacemakers currently, and I coordinate our Don't Buy It project. And I will pass it over to Nick.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nick. Pronouns are he, him. I also work at Menace Peacemakers, coming to you live from my bedroom. And if I keep looking to the side, it's because I have a dog staring at me. Chester's here as well. His pronouns are he, him. But at Menace Peacemakers, I work in our youth program, um, and anywhere else I can be of use.
Thank you, Nick and Sean. Again, my name is Felix Martinez. My pronouns are he, him, él, and I work for Esperanza United as an engaging man and boys program specialist. I'm also part of the Men and Masculine Folks Network, and I'm reporting today from home too. I just came back from a 3-day camp, so I'm beat up, I'm tired, but super excited to start the conversation today. So thank you, everyone, and remember to use the chat. Just please try to engage with us. We'll be hopefully answering all your questions and doing it in a way that will be fun and like we feel like we're all together in the same kitchen having this conversation. So, Sean mentioned we will be having a conversation about inherent dignity and belonging. And this is going to be your first conversation of the month. So we'll be focusing this time today on learning that and learn it together. So to start the conversation, this will be the first question I'm gonna have for both of you, and people feel free to jump in on the chat and write down what you want or try to engage any way you want to. So first question is gonna be this: share a story of a time when you felt like you belong. So let us know what did it feel like or look like. How did people treat you? How they speak to you, or how they interact with you. So again, share a story of time where you feel like you belong to a place. How did it feel like? How did it look like? And how people treat you? to speak to you, etc. So, can you guys share a little bit of your experiences?
I can jump in. We kind of ask this question a little bit here and there, and so I always think of the same story, and I share it a lot. But for me, I remember it was probably about 7 years ago now. That I got to go to a thing called the Philadelphia Trans Health Conference. And it was sort of my first experience getting to travel somewhere and to be within like this larger space of just like so many trans and gender nonconforming and gender queer folks. And it's like a 3 day conference in Philly, and I'd never been there either, and so it was like this really cool opportunity. And I remember the first day of the conference walking in, and it was like in one of these huge like convention centers. So you're walking in, and it's just like this massive building, and it was just swarming with all of these amazing trans folks. And so we're all just like kind of, it was like really busy. Everyone's trying to make it to their first session or keynote or whatever was starting the day. And I just like vividly remember not having the feeling of unbelonging for once, if that makes sense. Like it was like I walked into a space where it was just full of folks who have very similar experiences to me as a trans person. And I think oftentimes for folks within our community, we're navigating cisgender heteronormative community all the time and trying to kind of find, like, is it okay for me to be my full self in this space? Like, should I talk about what my pronouns are in this meeting? Or, like, I think there's just always all of these questions that I personally, kind of go through in my anxiety brain when I'm in a space with people. And walking into that conference, it was just like, I could literally feel like a wall just like coming down. And I don't know, like there's so many metaphors, right? Or like being able to like take off the armor of like trying to fit into this larger society, right? That I don't necessarily fit neatly into. And just that feeling of just like deep, deep relief. And like I think I felt exhausted, just like whew, I had to like take all this off, and then I was able to be there like with my people, with my community, who I knew one other person there, so it's like I wasn't with a bunch of people I knew, but it was just that feeling of people aren't staring at me, people aren't like looking, giving me the hairy eye and like wondering who I am or why I'm there. It was just, we were all just there in this beautiful, colorful, vibrant space together. And it was really, really powerful for me. I think that was maybe like 2 years after I'd come out as trans, so I was still pretty early in my own transition, and just figuring out like who I wanted to be and like what it felt like to just explore being me without any of these other like, I don't know, pressures to like fit in or to appear one way or another. And it was super, super impactful. And again, as I said early on, like I share that story a lot because it was such a meaningful thing for me. And so, yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. But man, it I don't know, like words cannot express that feeling of just like safety and connection and like just being able to be my whole damn self.
Love to hear that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I feel like that's thinking about times where I felt inherent belonging. It's the idea of like it's inexplicable because there isn't like a threshold where you get to and you're like, oh, now I belong, now I feel that. It's just like a vibe that eventually just like soaks into where you're at and what you're doing. Because I feel like for me, a lot of places where I feel that connection, that belonging is when I go to concerts. It's one of those things where, especially like in Minnesota, there's not that many places to go to a concert unless it's like the cities, Minneapolis or St. Paul. And so what's really cool is I feel like it's this congregation of a bunch of people all connected through one artist. Sometimes that's one person, sometimes that's four people in a band, but it always just feels like we're all in the same space. We all have the similar interests. You don't know any of those people. It's that space where you maybe wouldn't even be in the same circles with those people unless you had this inherent connection to, like, oh, we both enjoy alternative music or a very niche band based on a song we listened to in high school or something like that. And I think what's really cool is everyone there just always seems to be super happy. um Everyone is excited to share in like the music. People are singing along. Even the people that come in and don't know the music as much are just like bobbing their heads, hanging out, dancing, what have you. I don't know, it's something that I feel like I would be the person who I would get off of work at, like, school would be over. I'd leave my classroom around 4 and I'd drive like 3 hours to St. Paul to go see a concert. And I'd get back and I'd get back home at like 1 or 2 and wake up in 4 hours to go to work. And everyone would be like, why would you do that? And it's like, you just don't get it, man. Like, these are my people. But it's just one of those things where a lot of people wouldn't necessarily hold those values. But when you talk to other people at concerts, they're like, yeah, I've been following this band around cross country. This is my sixth show in 2 weeks. And other stuff like that. And something that even within my own family, the idea of like going to this many concerts is like, it's a waste of money. It's a whole lot of time. You gotta the merch is expensive, the tickets are expensive, but it's like all these people where you can't necessarily put a money value to it. It's just everyone's happy, everyone's vibing. To me, I feel like that belonging is concerts, events, stuff like that. And honestly, that's what I didn't even get to share that at our staff meeting. We talked about things we're excited for this summer. I think the summer's the best time because I look at my ticket accounts on my phone and it's just like I got something like every other week, if not every week. And it's like, yeah, it's busy. Yeah, you know what? It's costly, but it's something that I just feel so attached to, that community, those communities, and that belonging that you feel like just around music, which is already pretty impactful for me.
That was awesome, Nick, and Sean. Also, I think feeling of belonging, that of connection, not in the case of Nick with music and himself and the people around there, but feeling that you're in a place that that you can connect with people, and sometimes it's not through talking to each other. In this case, it's just music, so that's pretty neat. When I think the first time that I had that feeling is when I went to the retreat of the Men and Masculine Folks Network in 2016 or 17. For first time, I was able to get to a place other than obviously with the family or close family, that I felt welcome, I felt listened. I felt like that my voice matter, and I also hear about topics that I agree with and that I didn't see it in my community, that some values that weren't respected, or certain things that didn't agree. And in this space, for first time, I was like, wow, I was speechless. I was like, this feels some way like at home, but something that impact me so much that made me change careers, to say, you know what, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Be surrounded, men that they're caring, that they really care for their community, they care for each other, they're not afraid of crying, they support each other, and this is the feeling that everyone should have it, and the way that everyone should feel every single day. Because if we want to get the best from everyone, we all need to have that feeling of that we belong. So we do things with more love, because we know that of the impact it can have in others. And for me, being in that space, in that place, it was amazing. And something that happened, I was just this week in a youth camp with, it was a small camp with nine boys between the ages of 11 through 17, and it was in the same space that we met with the men and masculine folks. It was at Osprey Wilds, where I met today, and I was thinking, wow, this is like a cycle. I'm in the same spot where I have my first conversation about healthy masculinity, how to become a better role model or a better man, and I'm right now with nine young boys having some similar conversations and having fun. So it's like, wow, this is the life, or the world work in crazy ways that make you go back to that first place that you have that first conversation, think and reflect about that, and say how we can create that space where everyone feel, that they belong, that everybody feel like they have a voice, that everyone feel that they have a gift, or they can find their gift so they can, you know use it to empower others in our communities, to create that space that everybody feel that way. Something that sometimes it's really hard to express it with words, but it's something that you feel in your heart. You feel in your stomach, you feel in your head. You feel like, wow, this is cool. I want to duplicate that, and that's something that I try to do all the time when with the people around me, so they feel that they're safe, that they feel that they have a brother, a chosen brother, that's there to support you, to help you, and to be there with you, when you're going through difficult times, because there's nothing worse than being isolated, to be alone, dealing with problems in life, and not feeling that you have that person to talk to hopefully not necessarily guide you, just to hold your hand during that difficult time. So the feeling of feeling that you belong to a place is something that we should all work toward, if we want to create communities that are safe, that they're healthy, and that we could see a brighter future through these difficult times. So it's a great question. So thank you both of you for sharing.
For sure. I love how that's like this whole full circle thing for you, Felix. That's really cool that you got to be in that same place. Life is funny that way, and I love it. And I also really appreciate what you said there, Felix, too, about like once we feel those feelings of belonging and connection, it's like a lot of us want to figure out how can we duplicate this? How can we make more spaces like this, right? And it made me think of, just some of the work that I've been able to be a part of with Trans Northland. And we just recently put on this event called Trans Joy Fest, and it was our third time doing it, and every year it has significantly grown. And so in my brain, I'm like, yeah, the joy is growing. But really, what's growing is like the community who have now been able to like experience this place, this event, and that's my hope, right? Is that everyone who comes has that same feeling of belonging and connection, and knowing that they matter. And so, yeah, I was curious about this conversation because, as I said in our staff meeting this morning, I was like, I haven't really like dug really deeply into this like core tenet to think about it, and so I'm just appreciating this conversation with y'all. And so, as we move into our next question here, let me pop it up there. All right, so next question for y'all, and for all of you listening or watching who want to think about this. So, what does it mean to you all when you hear this phrase, everyone belongs, everyone is worthy, and everyone matters?
You can jump in. For me, it means that everyone is valued as they are. That everyone have a role to play. Everyone uh, has something to share. It doesn't matter big or small. But when I think of that word, that everyone belongs, is that inherent dignity that we all have. That we all deserve. That feeling that you know you have a family. You can create spaces that everyone can share and create bigger and better spaces with those gifts, with those strengths that we all have. And sometimes it take others to help you see that on you, because that's something personally I never saw in me till I started coming to these places. That even that I have these ideas in my mind, sometimes I never felt I could share them, just because they weren't the stereotypical, you know, men, expectations. So when when you feel like you belong, and that everyone is worthy, you realize that everyone, you know can help you create that space that you want. And like in this case, that space that everybody feel belong, everybody feels safe. And that's something that I'm very grateful of being in this field, just because it have helped me find that on me, and help me just also see that in others, so they can say, you know what, you, you know look this role, and look how many things we can do, and to make it better. How we can also sometimes make decisions that say, you know what, I maybe this is a person that I don't want to be around it, and that's okay. Because once you start feeling what are your true values and what's important to you, you're gonna be in those situations that you need to make those decisions, because there's some people that maybe it's not their time to be at the same level or the same space that you are. But at the same time, it's just give that opportunity to everyone to have that feeling, to engage, to feel like, you know what, I'm at home even when I'm not at home. So we can get the best of each of one, so we can be the best version of ourselves, that we can create change in a way that's healthy, in a way that we feel value, that our voice is important, that we can put all this, gifts together to change the world, something that is needed. But uh when we think about life, when we see harsh and those things that cause a lot of harm to our community, a lot of men and women and non-binary folks, sometimes we stay silent because we think we don't belong, that we don't feel that our voice is not important. And that's why having this feeling is should be or point to start for everything in life, to create change, because when we don't speak what is in our hearts, what is in our lives, people don't gonna understand, what we're going through. And for me, I always sometimes try to do that, try to put myself in that person's situation, so I can connect with that person at the same time, just to be sure they feel like, wow, okay, Felix care about me. He really had good intentions. He want me to be happy. He want me to be the best version of myself. And when you say that, that question of everyone's, belong, everyone is worthy, everyone matter, that's what it is. I think that should be our value. That should be, or like I said, our point of start to create those spaces. So I think at this point I'm rounding in the same spot, but I leave it there, and I'll kind of wait to hear both of you sharing too. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Felix. Big ups to that whole idea where it's like that'd be cool if that was the meeting point for everyone, because I feel like that's what, when you say everyone belongs, everyone is worthy, and everyone matters, I feel like it's the whole idea of community, whatever that looks like to you, meeting you as a whole person, not as a coworker, not as a friend, just you as someone who shares the same spaces, whether physically or just like ideologically. Um, I don't know, because that's just something I feel like all the different things and communities that I put myself into. That's why I'm so attached to them, is that I can be my authentic self, and I don't have to think about what I'm saying. I don't have to say something that I just saying to people please. Everyone belonging to me is that idea that kind of what you said earlier, actually, Felix, about um, having a gift or finding out what your gift is, that strength that you can bring to your communities, because I feel like that's something that's so in tune with a lot of the work we do, is just finding what you're good at or finding something you're passionate about and going there and doing it. I think the difficulty for me sometimes is like trying to create that space and recognizing that I'm not upholding to my own strengths and doing that when I feel like maybe I should. But um, the idea of doing things with more love when it's something that you have that belonging and that idea of feeling worthy and that you matter, I feel like just brings people closer to their potential. Um, no, I don't know. You said a lot of things I agree with, so taking it away for me to say because it's like I just agree with that so much.
Likewise, Felix, you answered it well for all of us. Yeah, I think as I've been kind of thinking about this now, like a couple things come to mind. Like I think about this whole like idea that we have in the United States that like all men, all people are created equal. And whether or not we actually believe that about our country or not is another conversation. But like that, you know, like literally every single one of us has, you know, blood flowing through our veins and muscles and hair and like, you know, we all have so many of these like common things that we share as human beings. And then also just thinking about like how diverse we are as human beings too. Even like when I think about like people in my own family, right? We're like a bunch of white folks, but like me and both of my brothers are like all very, very different, right? We have a lot of things in common, and then we also have a lot of things that we don't necessarily agree on, or hobbies, or, you know, like gifts and skills that they have that I don't, and vice versa. And so I guess when I think about this, like everybody belongs, everyone's worthy, everyone matters, it's like we all, yeah, every single one of us does matter. And like the fact that every single human being on this planet is here, like, is having ripple effects on all of us. And I think that that's really cool. And then the other thing that kind of comes up for me is like when I initially read this, I was like, oh yeah, everyone in my community is worthy. And then I was like, wait a minute, okay. Do I believe that about everybody else too? Like when I hear that everyone, I think my brain just really easily goes to like, who are the people in my community? And it's really easy to think of only those folks. And of course, there's conflicts and things within that community. But then I also am like trying to push myself to really like, if I expand that to everyone who maybe isn't in my community, who may not agree with how I choose to live my life or has different beliefs or, you know, like there's so much that is polarized right now in the United States around politics and social justice and all of this stuff. And that's a part that I'm like struggling with a little bit because I think logically I definitely would say, yes, this is true. But then I'm like, but does that actually show up? Does that belief really show up when it is everyone? Like when I'm not in Philly in a conference room full of trans folks, when I'm just out and about in the world, like I don't know. I guess it's just something I'm like pondering, and I don't have an answer or a very good one maybe at this point because I think, you know, like you said, Felix, or maybe it was you, Nick. Like there are always those people that we don't agree with or don't like or like rub us the wrong ways, and I think it is okay to, you know, not try to be best friends with everyone, but at the same time, like just really I don't know. I'm just kind of, I'm going to be thinking about this after this kitchen table conversation too. Because I think, you know, for me, I'm always trying to think about like, how can I grow? How can I continue to sort of expand, you know, the people who I see as being everyone in my community, you know? And so that's just, maybe I'm just throwing a wrench into all of it. But I'm curious where this next conversation or this next question will take us. And I see some folks are sharing in the comments, so we'll take a look at that here shortly. Glad glad y'all are chiming in. We would love to hear from you what your answers are to these questions. So, next one, bam. Okay, so are all human beings valuable? And if so, why? And if not, why? I'd be curious to hear what y'all think.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Of course, all humans are valuable. I think sometimes life takes us through different paths, and sometimes or paths are tougher than others and make us, be different people, but when you believe in the inherent dignity and belonging, we when we use that as a value, and sometimes we try, even that when we don't agree to other people, we as humans, we need to find ways to connect with them, and express them what we're going through, because it's not till we realize how these people are going through, what they're going through, you're not gonna be able to be a better friend or a better supporter. And when we have people in government that sometimes they're not seeing that, they're taking sides, and they have their own belief, and it's my way or the highway, is when you disconnect from other people, when you realize that maybe this is not a person I want to be around it, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve to, to be, to live, or just to have a, to be respected or anything like that. And we're human beings. I think when we think of war and all these conflicts around the world, why are we getting to the point of killing each other, to get to an agreement? Because we're not getting an agreement. We just, the person with the most power is the one who's gonna win, is the one who's gonna, decide, what's gonna happen after that. And we're humans. We all go through ups and downs in life, and but we need to be, try to understand what other people go through. Empathy is a big word for me, and it's something that guide me through life, just to understand other people, and to understand that all human beings are valuable, regardless if I like them or not, if he's a good person or not. When you think of the Adolf Hitler, people that have caused a lot of harm in the world, and you think that is a person that's, deserve all that. That's a tough question. Of course, I don't agree with that. But why he got to that place? Why? What happened to that person in his life to have that belonging? Why someone didn't call him out and say, what, I don't think this is right. you know and that's why it's important of having that feel of belonging, because then you can be your true self and tell that person, what, I think we should stop this. I don't think war is a solution. I don't think hate is a solution. you know because we all live in this amazing world that is beautiful. We know every single day there's a new opportunity. Doesn't matter how bad your day is going, you know that tomorrow is a new day, and it's going to be a new opportunities to change maybe those mistakes that we did. But it's that opportunity to create that world that we all want to live. That's the reason why I do what I do. I have two daughters. Have a lot of women's, female identified folks that are important to me, and I want them to live in a world that they feel respected, that they feel that they belong, that they have a word to say, and they have something to bring to the space to make it better. And and that's the way we need to think. And when we see people causing harm, it's sometimes maybe they have never had that opportunity. Maybe they grow up in places with a lot of violence, and it's not till we have these conversations that we start addressing these things that causing so much harm. Is when we realize, what, maybe Felix is not that bad as I thought. Maybe Felix just need someone to be next to him. Maybe Felix just need a hug. Sometimes we have a hug and we feel like much better after we're having a really bad day, and it's healing. And those are the spaces that we want to create. So everyone can feel and realize that they're valued, they have something to bring, and we can change this world. But this question is really tricky, because of that, because we all have people in our life that have caused harm one way or another. And when you think that everyone is valuable, the first thing's gonna be, no, I don't think Felix valuable. He's mean to me. He's always teasing me or doing causing harm over worse things, and this when we need to work as a community. We need to work together just to get that the best of all of us, make those accountable, and maybe help them to get in that place that they gonna realize, you know what, I did never realize that making sexist jokes, I was supporting to this world of patriarchy, of causing harm to women and girls. Or I never realized that, using patriarchy to take advantage, I was causing harms to my daughters. So that's the amazing thing about this world, that there's always a new day, there's always a chance to become a better person, a better human being, but at the same time, uh help those that maybe haven't get to that place to get that place, that they can have more empathy for others, and realize that the world is not it's not what around us. The world is more than that, and we can all support to create that world that everybody have that feeling of dignity and belonging, the inherent dignity and belongings that is possible. But thanks to spaces like this, thanks to this opportunity that amazing organizations like Men and Masculine Folks Network, Esperanza United organization that I work, and many others are out there, are helping to build that, to create stronger communities, to bring these topics that sometimes people don't talk about, and to create that awareness and changing the world, one person at a time. It happened with me, and I hope the same way it happened to me, I can help some of the youth and other men to get to that space that they feel that they can change the world, even when sometimes you don't have nothing, but you can do it too. You can be part of it. So I will leave it there, and I can't wait to hear from you guys.
Thank you, Felix. It's a hard question. I feel like you touched on a lot of different perspectives of it, and I feel like that's the trickiest thing about it is you think about all human beings. That's a lot of people. That's good people, bad people, and I think to me, I think I have to think about it from just like you got to have the belief that all humans are valuable. There are a lot of people I don't agree with. There are a lot of like ideals that I very much like vehemently disagree with. But I think one thing that's super important is just understanding that it's like there's something that everyone brings, and that's where the idea of community can still exist. Because I feel like there are places where what happens when you stop believing that certain humans are valuable, you know, you lose hope, you lose that sense of belonging, you start to cut off. I don't know what makes all the work that we do so important is that it's people centered. With us, it's youth serving, the men and masculine folk. It's like just trying to be good role models, I feel like. And so um how people show their values or what their strengths are and bring that out don't always align with what's for the greater good or what's better off for everyone, because some people have, I don't know, more holistic ideas in terms of making the world a better place. And I don't know. It's just a hard question. All humans. I think about like any times like maybe I wasn't a human who someone thought was valuable, or even just times like people were I wouldn't say I ever had bullies, but people have been mean to me in my life, and I've probably been mean to other people. And I think what has made me a stronger one of those humans moving forward is just understanding that sometimes you catch people on not their best days, sometimes you catch people in situations. But what has gotten me to create a more fulfilling community centric life is just upholding that it's like, you know what, you got value in you somewhere. And I think as long as you hold out and you're supportive and you're there for the person, whether they need a hug or whether they just need someone to be like, yeah, dude, that sucks. That really sucks. Um, when you do as much as you can in your own power to provide that inherent belonging to someone who may not have it, I think that's where you're more likely to see values in terms of what you can do to change the world in a more positive tone. I don't know. I feel like this is a very like a philosophical question. It's always difficult because I think sometimes it's always good to like what you can do in the now and how in your daily life that is. But I feel like that's a question that's it's not like a yes or no. It's very like gray. Um, I don't know. I feel like I could ramble about it forever, but curious about what you think, Sean.
Yeah, this does feel like a question that sort of is like, there's no like super clear answer, and everyone I think answers it a little differently. I mean, um, do I think all human beings are valuable? Again, in theory, yes. Like, like I don't think there's a lot of people who would be like, no, not all. Or at least that's my hope that people would not just like outrightly be like, yeah, some people are more valuable than others. But it's like in the practice of it, and so I'm very much curious like what our conversation next Thursday will look like as we're like trying to figure that out. How do we practice these beliefs that we say that we believe? Like, how does it actually look? But not trying to jump into that now. I think what this question brings up for me is like I think about how we as humans are oftentimes super, super just like quick to judge. Like I could see someone walking down the street and be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna say hi to that person." Like just little interactions, like all throughout our days, we are, running into people, and people are walking by us, and people we know and don't know, and I think about that, like we just all are very quick to judge, unless that's something you've been like really practicing not doing, which probably I need to work on more personally. Um, but then it's like I also, like if Sean Elmquist were here, I wonder if he would bring in sort of like a capitalist perspective, because I think about like value, like what do we think is value? Like, how do we even define, like, am I valuable because I can show up and work a job 40 hours a week? Or am I valuable because I'm doing the best that I possibly can to raise a 5-year-old? So it's like, I think, again, like, I really enjoy these conversations because I never really know what's going to come up, because again, it's like so much of how we see the world is based on our own experiences, how we were raised, right? The people that we sort of surround ourselves with, whether it's fam or chosen fam or community. And I don't know. Yeah, I think we all like to think we're pretty good people. But then as we dig a little deeper, it's like, oh, but yeah, am I actually living my life in a way that shows that I care and that I value all people? Or does it mainly just look like I care about the people I care about, this smaller group of people? Um, and it's tricky. It's really tricky. And then maybe the last thing I'll bring up around this is like I think that a sort of recurring theme that comes up like in our specific work around like violence prevention is like, what do we do with people who have caused harm? What do we do with people who have used violence, physical, sexual violence, people who have trafficked other human beings, labor or sex trafficked? Like, there are people, right, who make choices to harm other people. I've personally been harmed. My people that I care about have been harmed, and so many people, like right now, experiencing war in the world, and hunger and starvation and homelessness. And this question of like, are those people still valuable, or do we lose our value when we cause harm? Like when I scream at my kid when I'm really pissed off and I think she deserves it, you know, and then like 10 minutes later I'm like, oh, I could have done that differently, you know, like I don't think she's a terrible 5 year old. I don't believe that. She's just a 5 year old trying to do her best. And I think that we as humans are all trying to do our best not to cause harm. And so I guess I'm curious about that. It's like after we've caused harm, I have certainly caused a lot of harm in my life to people I care about unintentionally. I have hurt people intentionally, and I don't like to admit that and say that, but like, yeah, does that mean I'm less valuable as a human? Does it mean I'm valuable if I then try to learn from that and change? Or is the value just like throughout? I don't know. I don't know if y'all have further thoughts on that piece.
That's where I think the question is difficult because you think about like the three of us right here. It's like I value both of you very much because obviously we're here, we're having very great conversation. Um, I look forward to these kitchen table conversations that we get to have because I know we always get to a place where it's like, wow, I really value put a value to the things that we say. I think where the question is difficult to say all humans are the people that we disagree with, the people that have caused us harm, or the people that we potentially maybe inadvertently caused harm to, or intentionally. And I think that's where it gets difficult because then you ask about the people that do things that are wrong, talk about the people that have done domestic violence, people that have I don't know, broken lives of others for whatever reason they have. And it's that when you think like, are those people valuable? And again, for me, it just comes back to just like you gotta hold hope, um, in the idea of like restoration from the judgment that's like by all accounts you should completely disregard people who I don't know are bad people. But if you start to judge people between good and bad, you put that value to it, then you're kind of saying goodbye to the idea of that we can come back from certain things that people do, um, that they're irredeemable when it's something too. It's like the great thing about our communities and why our inherent belonging persists is that even when we do those things, we still have people that accept us and take us in back or something where it's just like, um, I don't know, if you make a bad decision or you have a fight with someone, the whole thing why you maintain friendships and relationships is that you can come back and be like work together on where someone was wronged. And I don't know. I think that's where I stand. It's like, yeah, I'll still very much disagree with a lot of people. And I don't know. I feel like that's the crazy thing. I always hate to bring up politics, but in an election year, it's one of those things where it's like I'm sure there's going to be 4,000 more ways where I'll disagree with someone before the year is up. But it's like through all that, it's like I don't know. I think about even I'll specifically say it like my relationship with my dad, in the last 8 years, I feel like has been kind of a roller coastery because it stems around stuff that's political. And it's one of those things where I always have to contend on disagreeing with his views, but then also the fact that like he's my father and I love him very much and he's just someone who has all these other reasons why like I find value in him and why I respect and appreciate him very much. But then you get those, I think sometimes those are the people in your circles that are the hardest to figure out what their value is when you love them, you care so much about them, but they don't load the dishwasher the right way, or or there's someone who you agree with, but they say bag weird, or I don't know, something where it's like you think you can everyone's perfect, but then you find something where they're not, and you always have to like assert their value. I don't know. Just think about different ways of people who have led into my life and let out and different things about that. But at the end of it, I feel like what I always hold to is that, you know what, people have value. Sometimes they use it for the wrong reasons, but um, it's not necessarily our jobs to channel them in the right direction. But I think what's really cool about why like Man and Masculine Folk Network exists, or like Men as Peacemakers or Esperanza United, is the fact that we have the intention and the hope to like guide people there, whether it works or not. That's I think about that with like our youth program. It's like I could have the best lesson plan in the world. I could have the coolest activities. I could be, I don't know, replacing all the water fountains with Baja Blast in the schools, and still going to get one or two kids that maybe don't value the same things that I'm trying to teach about conflict resolution, or I don't know, preventative violence in some other way. But I think it's just the idea that you try to do the best you can, and that gets you to kind of what Felix said: one day at a time. The next day, do the best you can. So.
Sean is throwing bombs and leaving us alone and burning these questions that they're super necessary, and they're great questions. I don't sound. I don't want them to sound really like a bad thing, but I think for those people causing harm, we need to make them accountable. I think we need to make them accountable. I think we all have that inherent dignity that we deserve, but sometimes, like I said before, it's not your time. It's your time to pay for the harm you cause, and eventually, it's gonna be up to you if you wanna learn, if you wanna create change in the world, and maybe it's not gonna be in this life. It's not gonna be in the next one that you're gonna finally get it. But yeah, it is hard when we think about this question. Uh, can I forgive someone that maybe killed someone that I love? Of course not. That's what I come. The first thing that comes to my mind is no. But are we willing to live with that burn for the rest of our life? And that's when we need to think about. Maybe I need to learn to forgive people. But can I forgive someone that killed someone that I love? Oof, that's a really heavy question. Um, Lucky and privileged enough that I've never been in that situation. But can I judge someone who went through something like that? Of course not. But something that we need to do is make those individuals accountable for their harm, but we need to do it in a community that we can all have a voice and express what they feel, and be sure that those individuals are responsible, and they pay for what they did. But forgiving is a gift that not a lot of people have. I can forgive you, but I will never forget that harm you caused to me. So maybe that will always stay on me. But learning to forgive, I think that's something that we all also need to work with, because it's not fair for us carrying that pain on us. That's not going to help us become better individuals. It's not going to help us live in that world that we all want to live. But it's a gift that not everyone have, and I think we all should work on it. Sometimes I see videos on YouTube where people in court, parents forgiving the assassins of their sons or daughters or non-binary folks, and I try to see myself in that situation, and I can't, and that's why I obviously need to keep working to become a better friend, a better husband, a better everything. There's always room to growth. You never can say, I'm 100%, I know everything, because we don't. And keep learning, specifically now that things are changing. Of course, when I used to be young, things were totally different what is right now, and that's why as a community we need to work together to get to those places where we learn to forgive, we learn to get the best of everyone, and we can be in that place that we want to be, that we want to be surrounded, that everyone can be the best version of themselves, and we can change the world in that way that we want to. And that's some things that sometimes I see myself, I see others doing, just saying bye to those friends that are in a point of life brought something positive, but at this point they don't. But learning to surround yourself of the right people is that right recipe. And that's something that sometimes I joke with Sean about. I would love to live in a community that I have, Nick in as a neighbor, have Sean as a neighbor, have Peng, Ed, all these people that are so positive, that that you're around them and you feel like you're safe and you feel like you could be yourself. And that's how we all should live, in communities that we feel respected, that your kids are running outside and that the neighbors are also keeping an eye and keeping everyone safe. And that's what I would love to see. And hopefully we can duplicate, and hopefully empower others to do the same, because everyone is valuable to a certain point, but I can see also how some people, maybe they're not in that place, and make me, like I said before, question how that person get to that spot. Obviously, they went through a lot of harm. They went through a lot in order to think in that way, because I don't think causing harm is something that people should enjoy, and or people are willing to do in order for them to get more power, or get to get more power. So, oof, this is a really fun conversation, but being respectful of time, I want to thank Sean and Nick for this amazing conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it also. Hopefully, get something of it, and also bring these questions home to your work, to the people around you, uh, so we can start looking for ways to get to that way we all want to be. So, I also, other than you both of you, want to thank all of you who were able to join us for a conversation today. As a reminder, we are holding this conversation every other Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Time. So join us for our next live conversation next Thursday. It will be June 27th. It will be next Thursday, where we're going to continue, obviously, this conversation and talk a little bit more about those practical ways that men and masculine folks can live their lives with always seeing that inherent dignity and belonging that we all deserve. What this look like? Well, so tune back June 27th to find out what we all think about, and to share also the ways you do it too.
That's right. Tune in. And yeah, just want to say thanks to Cedar and those who have tuned in today, and just appreciate you connecting with us. So for everybody else, no, just kidding. But don't forget, you can follow us on all of our social medias to stay connected with the Men and Masculine Folks Network. You can like and follow our Facebook page. Also encourage you to follow the Men as Peacemakers page and Esperanza United as well. Just start following some of these great organizations. You can also watch all of our previous kitchen table conversations back on our Facebook page, YouTube, and I am still working on uploading all of these to Spotify, but you can check them out there as well. And if you happen to be watching this conversation as a part of your virtual training for the Don't Buy It project, you can check out the description below for the instructions to download that discussion and activity guide. And yeah, as always, as we've said a couple of times today and always, we really encourage y'all to try this out. Have a kitchen table conversation with the people in your life, whether it's at a kitchen table or in the car, on the phone, on the street. Start having some conversations, because together we are building interconnected communities that are free from violence, where each of us can thrive together. So thanks again for joining us here at the kitchen table, and we will see y'all next week. Same time, same place. See you later.